In 2023, using the latest underwater scanning technology, we can unlock the secrets of the ocean floor. We're turning accurate data into three-dimensional images, allowing us to explore the deep oceans on a level never seen before. We can see ancient sunken cities, treasure ships, the world's tallest mountains, and discover what mysteries can be uncovered by studying the Bermuda Triangle. We'll explore the underwater infrastructure created by our civilization, and find out who lives at the bottom of the ocean and more. With detailed sonar data and modern 3D modeling technology, we can uncover all the secrets of the ocean floor today and understand what would happen if we drained the ocean. Today we will be discussing the ocean floor, but still our story begins in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. An amazing find has been made here: sinkholes, also known as synods, which were formed by the erosion of soft limestone. Scientists have found that many of these synods are connected by deep underground channels. But the most interesting thing is the arrangement of the sinkholes on top. They create an outline resembling the outline of a giant crater. The crater is thought to be the result of a meteorite crash several million years ago. By scanning, it was possible to create a three-dimensional model of the crater and establish that its age is 66 million years. This coincides with the time of the extinction of dinosaurs on our planet. The data helped scientists better understand the processes that took place many millions of years ago. The first step in our plan is to drain the bay, which would open up the continental shelf along the shoreline. However, the relief floor of the bay is covered with a thick layer of sediment, and the crater is still hidden under thousands of meters of sedimentary rock. We need to eliminate this layer, removing layer after layer, and travel back 66 million years to find the heart of the crater, a place no one has seen in the last 66 million years. By this point, the crater was 200 kilometers wide and 1 kilometer deep. The explosion created a ring of crustal debris around it. Modern technology has made it possible to determine the size, speed and angle of impact of the meteorite. Its width was more than 10 kilometers, and the speed of more than 40,000 kilometers per hour. At the site of the crater was found 120,000 cubic kilometers of rocks, which were thrown into the atmosphere and began a devastating chain of events, covering all life within a radius of thousands of kilometers. Giant waves hit the shoreline, reaching heights of several hundred meters or kilometers as they crashed into the shore and rolled across the continent. The surviving animals heard the tsunami approaching, but could not see anything in the dark. This is because the sulfur-rich rocks at the impact site began to evaporate, emitting atmospheric sulfate aerosols that blocked out sunlight. Marine plankton ceased to be able to photosynthesize and became deprived of a source of nutrients. This destroyed the basis of the food chain, prompting animals to seek food in other ways. The lack of sunlight led to a drop in the average temperature of 26 degrees Celsius for 16 years. In this situation, only the most resilient plants and animals were able to survive, and the dinosaurs were wiped out. However, the catastrophic events in the Gulf of Mexico is not the only kind of crater from an asteroid. We can also learn that today there are more oil rigs in the Gulf Basin than any other place on Earth. This is because 300 million years ago there was an ancient swamp in this area. It turned into oil, left hidden deep beneath the water and rock strata. The release of oil is a massive industrial project, and a powerful infrastructure of pipes stretches for hundreds of kilometers along the seafloor. The pipes on the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico stretch for more than 70,000 kilometers. As we are on the drained bottom of the bay, we continue to scavenge, and suddenly small slave ships appear before us, wrecked centuries ago in a violent storm. Turning our attention to the ships in the ocean, the first thing we want to do is look at the Titanic. But in fact, it is only the most famous shipwreck story, but not the most tragic. For example, if we drain the Chinese seas, we find the top-secret battleship Yamato, thought to be the largest in history, 200 kilometers south of Japan. It was 263 meters long and almost 40 meters wide. Most of the ship was protected by 40 centimeters of armor, and it was considered unsinkable, but it sank nonetheless. There were 3,063 people on board at the time, twice as many as on the Titanic. The battleship was blown to pieces, and all those on board perished. It is time to drain the legendary Bermuda Triangle, where more ships are allegedly lost than in other parts of the ocean in an unusual way. Of course, this is a stretch, but thanks to sonar data, we can look into the depths of the triangle. If we take away the water, we can see that the small islands of Bermuda are on top of a mountain about 4 kilometers high, the only one in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. This mountain arose in the early stages of ocean formation from a major volcanic eruption. The volcano expanded over 1 million years and eventually solidified as a huge tower above the surface of the water. The result was a huge volcanic island that was 1,200 meters above modern sea level. After the volcano cooled 30 million years ago, wind and rain eroded the mountain and a flat plateau was formed after the Ice Age. The water level rose and Bermuda remained on top of the seamount. Reefs have now formed on the nourishing slopes of the ancient volcano and surround most of Bermuda. Speaking of sunken ships, they have run into these reefs in all parts of the ocean, off other islands surrounded by reefs, and not just in the Bermuda Triangle. Besides, the Bermuda Triangle is just one small corner of a vast expanse, and there is no conclusive evidence that there are no more ships there than in other parts of the ocean. However, there are definitely places on our planet where very many ships have sunk. For example, in the English Channel, there are thousands of shipwrecks and real deserts under the water that pose a serious danger to ships. On the seafloor is a veritable graveyard of ships, where about 2,000 ships were wrecked. Every one of them was trapped and grounded, and some of them were merchant ships and had treasure on board. Now many treasure seekers dive into these waters in search of treasure. If you continue to drain the Chinese seas by pumping water out of them, not far from the coast of Vietnam you can find scattered everywhere pieces of shipwrecks from different eras. The Bermuda Triangle is also famous for its many disasters. The mysterious stretch of water is home to many shipwrecks from around the world. The Spanish galleon, the Chinese sampan, the Arab doll. For exactly two reasons, many ships have sunk here. First, the maritime Silk Road ran through this place, and second, it was a parking lot for ships. Most accidents occur precisely when entering or leaving the harbor, when a sudden change in wind can lead to a shipwreck. Merchants who came here hoping to get rich left their fortunes in these waters. Even today, many interesting finds can be found on the seafloor, such as Chinese pottery from the 15th century, each cup worth hundreds of dollars. Today, not only are there new kinds of merchant ship routes running through the ocean in congested and turbulent harbors, but there are also new kinds of merchant routes. They ferry data that was once the maritime Silk Route and is now an information superhighway. However, this modern trade route is full of just as many dangers. A lot of deep-sea risks are exposed to the World Wide Web. Our love of the internet is limitless. Humanity today consumes several petabits of information every 60 seconds, and the vast majority of that data is transmitted across the ocean floor. If we drained the oceans around the world, we would see a network of 1.5 million kilometers long forming the World Wide Web. Information is transmitted across the seabed at the speed of light through an extensive system of cables. As much as 98% of the world's information travels through fiber optic cables on the ocean floor. One of the most important and busiest stretches of the world's network runs beneath China's seas, halfway between Taiwan and the Philippines. Like all trade routes, this information highway is subject to all kinds of dangers. For example, the fall of dangerous predators that bite through wires, or collisions with even larger creatures. Some footage shows a humpback whale entangled in a cable off the coast of Norway. Rescuers had to cut the cable to free the animal. So part of Scandinavia was left without internet. To eliminate possible threats, engineers are burying the wires deep beneath the seafloor. If we drain the ocean, we see giant machines that lay the World Wide Web. They resemble a plow the size of a house that crawls along the seafloor. High-pressure water jets form trenches 3 meters deep into which the cable is buried. Only in the deepest parts of the ocean are the wires placed on the surface of the seabed by Nikitans. If we drain the deepest gorge in the Straits of Masonry, the main information highway connecting the countries of Asia and the West will appear. 19 cables carry trillions of gigabytes of data between companies, governments, universities and stock exchanges. All of them lie on the surface and are therefore vulnerable. In 2006, a massive 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck the bottom of the China Sea, followed by a second stage of tremors. A huge underwater landslide began to destroy the data cables that connected Southeast Asia and the United States. This resulted in an internet blackout, which shut down ATMs and blocked transactions at stock exchanges, as well as paralyzing corporations and banks on both sides of the ocean. This was the first time that so many cables were severed, and a huge part of the world lost full access to the internet. It took 3 months to repair the broken wires, and the next disaster could happen at any moment, as the largest and most dangerous seismic zone on the planet, the Ring of Fire, lurks in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Most earthquakes on the planet occur in the Ring of Fire. The consequences of these tremors lead to catastrophes, as not only the land but also the seafloor is shaken here, causing the water to rise sharply, creating deadly tsunamis that destroy everything in their path. The glowing core is at the center of our planet, surrounded by a dense mantle of various rocks. The Earth's crust consists of several tectonic plates, arriving in constant motion, resulting in mountains and oceanic depressions, gorges so deep that they can hold 6 100-story skyscrapers on top of each other. One plate pushes the other deep into the planet. Where the plates do not yield to each other, enormous pressure builds up. It is in such areas that an earthquake of magnitude 9 or higher can occur. Scientists call this fault a subduction zone, which is underwater and causes not only earthquakes but also huge tsunamis. An earthquake in the ocean has caused many cities on our planet to be submerged. With underwater scanning, we can look at what remains of the classic civilizations that flourished in the Mediterranean more than 1,000 years ago. All along the coast, people describe stories of sunken cities. The waters surrounding Greece recede and something unimaginable is revealed before us, the foundations of an ancient city, seeping out on the seabed. This city is called Pavlopetri and was discovered by a single archaeologist in 1967. On the bottom, where this city has been located for 5,000 years, many objects related to everyday life and trade have been discovered. With the help of underwater scanning, we can reconstruct the appearance of the city. Without water, we can see the outlines of the foundation. The city at its peak was a perfect example of a new type of European city with its straight streets. Pavlopetri was at the crossroads of the many trade routes of the Mediterranean, which developed strongly during the Bronze Age. The finds from the ruins suggest that Pavlopetri was a great port city and a great center of trade and crafts. But what caused the demise of the city? How did it end up on the seabed? Interestingly, there is no historical record of this city and its demise. It simply sank and fell into oblivion before its discovery in the 20th century. Uncovering the mystery of its disappearance was helped by a 3-dimensional model. On the outskirts of the city, we see 3 mysterious lines, bands of coastal rock formed by the action of sunlight and salt water. These are only formed near the shoreline. This can only mean one thing. The coast has been submerged by earthquakes. 3 earthquakes in a row have submerged the city completely. Pavlopetri is one of the most important Bronze Age cities discovered and the oldest sunken cities in the world. But scientists are sure it's not the only city found underwater. The oceans hide a huge number of lost civilizations and artifacts for us to discover and study. Pavlopetri is one of the most important Bronze Age cities discovered and the oldest sunken cities in the world. However, scientists are confident that this is not the only city found underwater. There are many more sunken settlements lurking in the depths of the sea to be found. We might even stumble upon the legendary Atlantis. We may not find Atlantis, but here is something mysterious. We once discovered the island of Yonaguni in the sea. In 1986, a massive underwater formation was discovered, which made a lot of noise in the media. Could it be the creation of an ancient advanced civilization? It is a striking sight, a huge structure, the smooth walls of which lead to the top, located at the height of an 8-story building. From the very base, stone steps rise up there. From whichever side you look, the forms are stunningly marked out. Some scientists believe that it is entirely a creation of human hands. Others believe that it is a natural monument that has been refined by man. If we pump the water away from the shores of Yonaguni Island and expose the monument thanks to data from underwater scanning, we can better understand the nature of this rock formation. The water is gone, and we see the smoothly carved terraces exposed. The monument appears before us as a whole, and now we can see how huge it is. Its scale is staggering. Nevertheless, not from underwater, it no longer looks as artificial, that is man-made, as it seemed underwater. Many scientists are convinced that this monument is completely of natural origin, despite its regular shape. After all, we know very well that nature often creates various creations of the right shape. If we want to siphon water from a quiet cove on an island in the eastern Mediterranean, we will see unusual round stones with an extremely regular shape. Their discovery in the archaeological world caused excitement among scientists. Many researchers immediately believed that the stones were man-made and the discovered place was the ruins of an ancient city. Stones of this shape were found at the excavation of an ancient settlement, which is more than 2,000 years old. It is assumed that they served as the base of columns of stone. However, analysis has shown that these stones were originally created by nature. They are 5 million years old and predate even the oldest human civilization. Their shape is rounded because of methane emissions along with microorganisms and sediments from the seabed. Traveling to the bottom of the ocean, you can find the carcass of a huge sperm whale. It will not rot at the bottom of the ocean because the aquatic world is always in the cycle of life processes. Gill sharks sniff out small amounts of blood bitten off by the tide, and this leads them to sperm whale carcasses. Each gill nick accelerates the spread of news of food availability, and soon the huge sharks gather at the site. The competition for pieces of meat is so intense that the animals attack each other, trying to snatch a piece of carcass. After the whale falls to the bottom of the ocean, 12 hours pass, and a third of the carcass is already eaten. Funny enough, one of the sharks still eats until it's full. One such meal can last an entire year. After the sharks have quenched their thirst for flesh, they swim away, and the thorough cleanup crew begins. Huge crabs, sea spiders with coral on their hind legs, and stone crabs begin to clean up the leftovers. They are the scavengers on the ocean floor. Within a month, more than 30 other scavenger species are destroying the last edible bits. They attract their own hunters, such as lipids and sablefish. They swim vertically, picking up crabs one by one. After 4 months, several of the sperm whale's teeth fall out as its skeleton begins to disintegrate. However, some animals still find food in the carcasses. Even bones are suitable food for some species. Zombie worms, for example, punch holes in the bones and inject acid into them to get at the remaining bits of fat. Some bones at the bottom of the ocean will last for decades more, but everything will eventually collapse. The entire 30-ton whale carcass will eventually be recycled on the ocean floor. The fall of the whale is a temporary phenomenon. The oasis in the desert of the seafloor is not as flat as it seems. In some places, giant faults stretch for many kilometers along the ocean floor. These are canyons that go to the center of the Earth. The deepest of these, the Mariana Trench, is in the Pacific Ocean and is almost 11 kilometers deep. Even Mount Everest could hide in this trench. Scientists used to think that nothing living could survive at this depth. However, they found life here in the form of sea slugs and other simple creatures. They managed to survive on the tiny amount of food that enters the canyons. A guided camera probe found the most unusual creature, the disembodied bald parus, which lives at a depth of 8 kilometers. It is the deepest fish that has been discovered to science in modern times. No one could even imagine that a complex organism like a fish could exist under such tremendous pressure. From great depths to the very top of the twilight zone, there is life in one form or another everywhere in the deep sea. Scientists now speculate that the deep sea may be where life on Earth originated. At the heart of the world's oceans is an underwater mountain range, a mid-ocean ridge that spans the entire globe. More than 80% of the volcanic activity on the planet occurs at the bottom of the ocean, and almost all of it runs along the mid-ocean ridges. But great riches also emerge from this titanic force. Gases and hot springs containing vast quantities of minerals erupt through rifts. From these jets form great chimneys of hydrothermal springs, and the most important of these is in the Atlantic Ocean and is called the Lost City. This hydrothermal spring is a truly unique site. 60-meter-high towers formed under great pressure and high temperatures spontaneously produce hydrocarbons, molecules that are the main building material for the creation of life. Many scientists believe that life on Earth may have originated around such hydrothermal vents about 4 billion years ago. Life on the ocean floor near hydrothermal vents is so amazing that 1 square meter holds up to 500,000 different small animals. Their diet consists entirely of bacteria that feed on the chemicals created by the volcanoes. Crabs and shrimp also consume the bacterial film that covers their shells, and some shrimp carry bacterial cultures in their bodies. Life on the ocean floor near hydrothermal vents borders on danger. To provide food for the microbes, shrimp must rush into the hot springs, where they risk being boiled alive. Still, the number of open hydrothermal vents has doubled in recent decades, and each has its own animal community. The future may be lurking on the satellites of Jupiter and Saturn, which also have hydrothermal vents, because if life can exist under such extreme conditions as at the bottom of our ocean near hydrothermal vents, then surely it can exist somewhere else under kilometers of ice.